The regular meeting of the Eastpointe City Council on Tuesday, September the 5th, 2017 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the invocation given by Councilwoman Sarah Lucido. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, as the children of Eastpointe begin school this week, let us all be extra careful as we drive through our city, making sure that all of them get to the classroom safely. Please guide the teachers that we entrust with our educating them. Children are our greatest blessing, and we thank you for them and for all of our blessings. Please give them the skills and the opportunity to become the next great doctor, teacher, mechanic, or whatever they choose to be. Let their choices only be limited to as far as they can dream. It is in your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, Council, we have a proclamation tonight, so if you wouldn't mind if we go down here, and we have a representative from the DAR.
Try not to block the stair steps.
If you're wondering what all these boxes are, these are our new voting machines. This proclamation is to honor Constitution Week, which is from September the 17th to September 23rd, 2017. So I'll read it, and then I would like you to say a few words. Whereas it is the privilege and duty of all Americans to commemorate the 230th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuance of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Suzanne Pixley, Mayor of the City of Eastpointe and the Eastpointe City Council, do hereby proclaim that September 17th through the 23rd shall be known as Constitution Week in the City of Eastpointe, and urge all of our citizens to study the Constitution and to reflect on the privilege of being an American with all rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. So in witness thereof, we have hereunto set our hand and caused the seal of the City of Eastpointe to be affixed this 5th day of September. And if you'd like to come forward and tell your position and what you're doing and why we do this.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful seeing so many citizens out here ready to do what the Constitution says. Have your constitutional right to speak your piece, right? And any of you veterans out there, thank you very much for serving, and especially to our first responders as well. I have several friends in Houston who cannot say nothing but good things about the people that have helped them there as well. My name is Teresa Jones. I am the chapter treasurer for the Elizabeth B. Anna May chapter of Daughters of the American Revolution. And I'm not, the stereotype little lady in tennis shoes. Though I came from work, so I do have my work tennis shoes on. I will admit to that. But I'm also an East Detroit High School graduate. My mom, who is our chapter regent now, and has other duties in St. Croix Shores for the chapter tonight, is also a retired teacher from the East Detroit school systems. You see, we have some ties here with this great community. And one of the things that we do with honoring Constitution Week is to remind people that that's part of the reasons that our Revolutionary War ancestors, anyone who's ever fought for our rights and for our country, this is what they did it for us. So I'm going to enjoy sitting here and listening to all of you speak. Because I actually am a Detroit City resident, just across the 8-mile border there, and I never really get a chance to go to my own city council meetings because of when they're held and everything. So I kind of enjoy coming to yours once a year. Thank you very much, and thank you, City Council.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Here.
Councilmember Lucido?
Here.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Here.
Mayor Pixley?
Here. And with that, we'll move into the first hearing of the public. Does anyone wish to be heard? Does anyone wish to be heard? Sir, in the hat.
My name is Jim Colville, and I purchased a home in Eastpointe in 1974, and I own a home right next to my home, and it's we border Topher and Gratiot, and there's an American Legion Hall that's right across the alley from our property, and American Legion Hall has always been wonderful neighbors. They've always had a dumpster. They've always picked up their trash. They've always taken care of things. The American Legion is no longer there. Somebody else is occupying the building. I have no idea who it is. The real estate office next to that, the man, Mr. Mackey, he passed away. Somebody else is occupying that. And it's my understanding when a building's reoccupied, you have to do some certain things like maybe a cement wall. Other neighbors have had to do that. Now, the problem is they had a party there a couple weeks ago, and there was a shooting in the alley. I never saw anything in the paper about it, but there was several bullets fired. And I'd like to share these pictures with you. I have one picture of a bullet that went in the house that's right next door to mine. My bedroom can be seen from where the bullet is too. This was in the bedroom of where my tenant lives, who's been there for 5-6 years. The next picture is a picture of their car in the backyard. There's a bullet hole in the car and into the trunk. The next picture is of the wheel of the car. There's a bullet hole there. They had at the hall, evidently they had a party or something, and I don't know, some kind of shooting or whatever took place. So then after this was over, they had all their garbage over there. They never pick up anything else on any of the other property, and they park everywhere else, which we never had a problem before because they'd always cleaned up or whatever. Here's a picture of their garbage cans. They no longer have a dumpster. Here's a picture of, I'm going to leave you, I got 3 copies of it. Here's a picture of our fence that we fix 4 or 5 times a year because cars back into it. Here's another picture of our fence that we don't even want these shrubs here, but we have to have them. And then the city violates us if our shrubs hang over the fence at all, but there's supposed to be a wall there. And we take care of it. We have a landscaper do it. I guess I'm asking, my wife can't sleep. She's very freaked out about this, which I think anybody else would be too. My tenants are talking about moving because they're terrified of it. If there's a hall there, it should have a security guard, it should have parking, and it should have a cement wall. They don't seem to have any of it, and I would ask the council to please help us. We do love the city.
So, Mr. Colville, be sure and pass that information over to Linda. We'll follow up on that.
Okay. And I'll leave you three packages of these pictures. If anybody wants them now, I'll give them to you now.
Just leave them over there with
okay.
Linda. We'll make sure each person gets them.
Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for coming. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Sir, in front. And please state your name.
Yes, my name is William Gibbs. I live on 24893 Raven Street. And the street in front of our house, 3 doors, is all tore to pieces. I would like to know when something would be done about it.
Can you repeat that address again? 24839.
24893 Raven.
Okay, we have it recorded, and we'll follow up on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Creech?
Madam Mayor, Council, Harvey Creech, resident of Eastpointe. You know, I've been told, pick my battles. Well, my battle started before, more or less, a little bit, you know, this water and sewage bill. This time last year, 5 units cost me $65.58. I just got mine this year, 5 units, $96.25. That's close to a 50% increase. You know, and Mr. Blum, we discussed this once before too. We're talking about, like he said, we had an 18% water loss last year. If we had an 18% water loss last year, either the administration or somebody is not really totally doing their job, because this is ridiculous. The residents right now are paying for everything, not just anything, we're paying for everything. You know, I recently sent in a FOIA, and this is right here. It says, please be advised on 16th day. I asked water billings and receipts from the contractors of year 16 and 17, 17 and 18, who use city water to perform their jobs, contracts, batch plant, tanker trucks, water purposes of their work and contract. This is what I got back. One piece of paper. $125. I tell you what, if I was a contractor, I want to work in this city. Who pays? I'm saying they run water out of our DPW. I mean, the tankers come in there, the cement trucks come in there. Everybody comes there and uses our water. Who pays for it? Residents, again? I see in our budget there's a $1,680,000 contractual. Please, somebody give me a breakdown of that. Contractual what? We're going to pay for all that? Is that our water too that we're paying for? I don't understand this anymore. As I said, the DPW itself, it's, especially when you have a special budget, that leaves them with no budget. They do whatever they want, when they want, how they want, and as I said before too, nobody keeps track of them. Right now, their gates stay open. They never close their gates. Why do their gates stay open now? They never used to before. Is somebody else but the city using our water? Are they using their trucks and doing something else? Do we have to keep it open for the batch plant? I'm saying there's a lot of water getting used here somewhere. 18% loss? How is that feasibly possible? How can we lose 18% of our water? I don't think we're losing it. I think we're using it, and somebody's not paying for it. I want the residents to come up and do the same thing and tell them what they actually think, because how can we possibly lose this kind of water
You have 30 seconds.
under our ground or the rest of the stuff? I'm saying somebody's not paying their fair share. And I think it's the water department. This is my opinion. I'm looking into it. I'm going to keep looking into it, because I said right here, one bill
Thank you, Mr. Creech.
for $125 for a year.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? In the back, please.
My name is Richard Wing, and I live on Raven Avenue in Eastpointe. Been here since 1991. And, you know, to perhaps use a little bit more of your 30 seconds, I'd like to continue to stir that pot. Water usage is just, you know, from the figures that I get based on what Mr. Bloom has published in the East Sider, things don't wash. And it's kind of interesting that, you know, we're finding roughly a 40% increase only after the recent departure of our city manager. So I don't know where our priorities are, whether they be on city signage or building a mountain at the Spindler Park over there, or wherever they are. But when I look at 51.4% increase in water, 29% increase in, 29% increase in sewer treatment, and 74% increase in ready to serve. That total percentage doesn't add up to the increase in my bill, which comes up to roughly 40%. But 40% is even an outrageous number. I mean, things aren't adding up. I don't mind. For years I've noted that even when I'm gone in the wintertime, that I'm still billed 1 unit of water, and I understand that perhaps they round up on on your water bills, and that's okay with me. I mean, I don't mind paying my fair share for to contribute to the water loss, which is what I've always felt. But quite frankly, I mean, this just doesn't. I mean, I'm on fixed income, and to get even a 40% increase is my pension isn't going up 40%. I'll guarantee you. I'll relinquish the floor to anybody else who would care to even carry this on.
I'm sure we'll be addressing these with administration.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, he can relinquish the floor and give up his 30 seconds.
I do so if you'd like.
Excuse me, yeah, Madam Mayor, the question I want to really say right here is, on our water bills themselves, it's amazing where you've got important messages for 6 months. You put down, get your dog license, we're going to redo the parking lot, but not one thing was said on here that your water bill is going to go up 40%.
Mr. Creech, your time is up. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Sir, in the back.
My name is Hank Lang. I've lived in this beautiful city for 68 years. And I won't tell anybody anymore where I live. It's gone right down the tubes. First of all, you get rid of the best city manager we ever had. Water bills are going out of this world. I have friends that live in Warren, 2 blocks away from me. Their water bill's $41 a month. Mine's $120, and there's just 2 of us in the house. And we spend most of the time at our place up on Lake Huron. It's ridiculous. And the other thing I want to bitch about, Beechwood has a stop sign. Oakwood has a stop sign. Furwood is a freeway. I sat tonight on my front porch from 4:30 till 6:30. I counted 13 people going well over 40 miles an hour. Last year we had a scout car there twice. But it was a marked car. They can see it. You don't put a marked car where you're trying to get radar done. I mean, somebody's going to get killed on that street. This afternoon, one guy went by, because I've figured out with my stopwatch how far you got to go and how fast you're going. He went by 57 miles an hour. And I can tell you where most of them are from that speed. They're from Detroit. Because Detroit doesn't have any rules about driving. Here in Eastpointe, we should. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Please.
Hi, everyone. I'm a resident of Eastpointe. I live on Beechwood. My name's Jason. And I was shocked to see my bill this month for water. Like everyone else, I'm surprised we don't have more people out the door here. 2 months ago, my bill for 3 units, I guess that's what it was for, I believe was $55.81. I understand I used a little more water the next month. I used 5 units. My bill was $100.25. This month, 4 units, $87.95. When I moved here 6 years ago, my bill for 2 people living in the house with a dog, we paid between $32 and $45. How is it twice the price? Can you answer that?
We'll let Mr. Blum attack some of those questions.
And I'd like to give him my 30 seconds. Thank you.
I'm sorry, but he can only speak one time. He can be back at the second hearing of the
I
public.
did have one other thing. The light on Beechwood and 9 Mile is ridiculously long to get off the street to go left. I would like that retimed. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? You can come back the second time at the second hearing of the public.
Is there anyone else?
It's your turn. Please state your name.
Karen Morage, an Eastpointe resident. I concur with everyone's frustration about the water bills, and there are plenty more that are frustrated. They're just not here to speak tonight. But that's not why I'm speaking during the public comment period. Many of you know me, where I stand on the issue with animals. They're always my number one priority, right, Rich? Anyways, so the tethering, you know, there's some very valid points. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I'd like to see the tethering abolished, period. Anyone who thinks that tethering dogs is okay, all right, I invite you to be chained up in the backyard all day long, and all you get every day, one bowl of food, one bowl of water, and you have no shelter from the elements. Not the rain, not the snow, not the ice, not the high freezing winds or high winds, not the mud, not the, you know, ever-changing weather conditions. That's no life for a dog. If you do not want to treat animals like family members, if you're not going to socialize them, if you're not going to treat them with respect and treat them as the sentient beings that they are, you have no business having a companion animal. You're not doing those animals any kind of favor whatsoever. What I'd like to see Eastpointe also do is to change it and make it mandatory that there are fences, because I've noticed there's certain spots here and there in Eastpointe that there's no fences. Common sense tells you if you're going to have a dog, your dog needs to go outside to go to the bathroom and have the area fenced in, you know, to protect the dog.
You have 30 seconds.
We have shelters that are bursting at the seams due to human stupidity, arrogance, selfishness, abandonment, and neglect. 3 to 4 million animals are being euthanized every year because of that, because of the endless excuses as to why they don't want their animals anymore. If you don't want them, don't have them. You're not doing the animals any favors, and you're overtaxing the shelters. Key point, treat them with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else at this time? If we see none, then the first hearing of the public is closed. We'll move on to, we have an
Madam-
agenda change.
Yeah, if I may, I'd like to motion to move the item J, approval of the Labor Association agreement to, I guess it would be create a new section 12 after closed session with our attorneys.
Support?
Move and support. Please call a roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Move on to item 3, which is the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of August 18th.
And Mayor, I'll motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 15, 2017.
Support.
Move and support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. We have no scheduled hearings. We have 2 items under unfinished business. The first item is the second reading and the adoption of the ordinance number 1143, an ordinance to amend Chapter 8 Animals, Article 1, General Section 8-1, care of the animals.
Madam Mayor, I motion to give second reading to and adopt ordinance number 1143, which amends Chapter 8, Animals, Article 1, Section 8.1, care of animals.
Support?
Support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Item B is an item tabled from our last council meeting, which is the bid award for the 2017 major street pavement markings. Do we have a motion? More discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to speak a little bit, or I guess ask a few more questions to clarify, because I wasn't clear after last time. So I took a look at the RFP, and it does lay out like feet and the amount of work that's going to be done. So my understanding was it's actually less than that because there were areas we wouldn't do.
No, they're, basically, everything that Mr. Pangori has highlighted in the memo, which I asked him to write so you guys had a little better understanding of what they're trying to do. They bid it in a unit cost, but everything on there as presented into the RFP is the work that's going to be done. The issue is if they got out there and felt that something didn't need to be repainted, then they would just take it off the contract. But at this point, he's saying all those locations need to be done and need to be painted, which was covered in the RFP itself.
Okay.
But we also didn't get we didn't get any update from Mr. Pry. He was talking about a second type of striping. This is the best type of striping, which we have no way of comparing, but sounds like the one suggested might last the longest and make sense dollars per year. But it was first brought up last week, and I thought we'd get an update on that second option. That was $104,000 or $106,000 less than this one, and I didn't see any update about that.
I must have missed the comment, and that's my fault.
And then I thought also, since we are looking at the master plan and I see there are no bike lanes or anything like that, to me it seemed reasonable that we consider this next year. I don't think the pavement markings will, I think they'll be okay for another year. And we could discuss bike lanes, and as far as I understand, there's grants that we can utilize or at least apply for and things like that. I think we should consider that before going out and, putting this much investment in something like this.
Well, the bike lanes wouldn't include all of the pavement markings, so. Pavement striping is a lot more comprehensive than just the bike lanes. And most of our bike lanes are already marked.
What bike lanes?
We have bike lanes that are marked on Stevens and Hayes.
I think there's just parking lanes on Stevens.
No,
There's no bike lanes.
those are initially bike lanes, but because they didn't approve the complete street, there's none of the signature markings. But those were striped for bike lanes.
Okay.
So I went back today and looked at the budget. This wasn't in our CIP. I think, Mr. Blum, you might have spoken about how it would be funded a little bit last time, like partially from, I think it was like major roads and then
Yeah,
general.
the majority of this will come out of major streets, because those are the ones that get striped. The only part that will come out of local would be the school crossings that are on local streets themselves. The major street fund has enough money to cover their portion of it. Local streets is always a little bit tight, but we'll be fine for what little bit will be charged to them.
And we transfer, is it that we transfer from major streets to local streets when we're able to transfer between them?
We can transfer up to 50% of our major street money into local streets, yes, and we do that every year.
That's already been done.
Yes, yeah, it's budgeted that way.
We have a chance to budget for that once a year then?
Yeah, we can do up to 50% without any special approval. If we ever get our, I think it's part of the PACER rating, whatever they deem it, there's some street terminology they have. We could actually transfer 100% of our major street money into local if that ever got done. Of course, they wouldn't leave any money for our portion of TOFR and things like that, but we can do 50% without any special approval.
And don't we almost routinely do that?
Yes, there's not enough
'Cause
money
there's
that comes
no
in
money
from
in
the,
local
we wouldn't
streets.
be able to plow the streets if we didn't do that.
Yeah, we have to do that just to balance it. And normally, under this kind of maintenance, we wouldn't put it in the CIP. Usually, we have it just reconstruction in the CIP, so we've never really put this part of the maintenance in there.
Okay.
It was kind of a last-second thing, though, just because of the 9 Mile and 94 area that has gotten so bad, it's become a traffic hazard. And that was the impetus to get this moving now, instead of waiting. If you ever come in on 9 Mile from St. Clair Shores, you'll know what we're talking about.
No, I mean, I like the idea, and it would be nice to have clear markings that last a long time. I was just surprised it wasn't something that was budgeted, because it's not just, it seems more than just maintenance, because we're upgrading kind of the striping all over the city
Right.
on the major thoroughfares. So it seems to me like it should have been something considered as a capital improvement project that we would have seen coming, down the line. But I'm torn on it, so I would like to hear what other council members think, I guess.
I'd like to table it till next year, at least.
I'd like to see it done this year, because when you're coming in from St. Clair Shores, you definitely need some clear marking there. I think there's some real problems in that section. And it would just be nice if we had something that was clearer over by the schools as well.
I think if there's a part or two of the city, I think we could allocate some funds to do those portions this year with paint, but I think especially since
With
we're going.
paint?
Sure, with
Tape.
paint, sure, or tape, whatever the cheapest option would be at this point, since next year we'd be doing the better option, ideally. And we actually, I mean, we're going through the master plan, and we're just putting down the same stripes as before. When, I see a lot more people biking through the city and things like that. It'd be nice to do a few extra things. When you drive down 9 Mile into Ferndale, you're like, wow, all it is paint on the ground, but it looks so nice. I don't want to just put the same thing back down personally.
That would probably be a little bit more expensive than.
A whole lot
Right.
more. Mrs. Cito?
Yeah, I'm torn on it also. I do think it's necessary. I agree that over by St. Clair Shores, coming in off of 9 Mile, definitely needs improvement. There's other areas we're actually doing that are not as bad. I mean, I'm willing to, whatever council agrees on, I'd be willing to postpone it a year or to do it now.
Please call a roll.
Need a motion.
We don't, well, I'll motion to table this topic till at least next year.
We have
Support.
support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido,
Yes.
Mayor Pixley,
No.
and Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Yes.
All right, we'll move on to reports from administration. We'll start with our Assistant City Manager, Mr.
Ultimus.
Altimus.
Thought it was just me that forgot my name at the end. As you see the large boxes to our left, that is our new election equipment that came in last week. Tomorrow they are going to show up and start putting it together. The next step would be them to get it certified through the state. Once certified, then we're ready to go for November. So kind of looking forward to getting it going. This is about the largest room I have to handle all this equipment that came in. Also, a reminder to everybody that tomorrow starts the parking lot project. So parking is, we're trying to set up as much parking around the building as we can, and we've moved employees off to site, different sites, so we're trying to leave it all open for people to come in. At some point, there might be a time where you may not be able to get in through the back, but the front, obviously, we're trying to sign. A lot of people don't know that we actually have a front door off grass yet, because it's recessed in. Outside of that, Your Honor, just trying to keep up with day-to-day.
I think you just wanted to show off how much equipment we received to all the residents for the meeting here. That's why it hasn't been moved yet.
Do you want to explain the fact that this is a grant that was provided?
Yes, other than the extra equipment that we needed for additional that we determined, all this is being paid for through a HAVA grant through the state of Michigan, which is a federal government grant. And also monies coming from the state of Michigan itself offset what the difference is. So throughout the state of Michigan, the process was over a 2-year period. The state certified 3 different systems, and then each county through the county clerk's office then sat down and figured out which system they wanted to go through. Macomb County has selected the SNS system, which we were unanimous in after going through all the demonstrations that we had, and we went through two different, one short and then one all-day sessions with each one of the vendors. So I think you're going to see some nicer equipment. The express vote, which I term as the ADA voting machine, is a little more into the future, and at some point, if the state of Michigan's gets the law changed, you would actually be able to vote via phone. These all have modems in them, so all the information from each day or from the voting day can be sent directly from the polling location, so that'll help us on delays. But actually, and with the express vote, it actually works off a blank paper where all the votes then, once you cast off that, it prints it. Whereas instead of before, if any of you folks have seen the older ADA machines, they actually use printed material, an actual voting ballot that you circled in. This actually gives it a lot more flexibility. So a lot more advancement in technology. The screens on them you will be able to read, so if there's an issue, and it speaks in English, not in voterese, as I call it. So if you overvote, it will tell you voted too many times for a certain, instead of saying you overvoted, which, don't know how many of you have seen that, but I'm pretty sure none of them understand what that means. So I think you're going to find for the voter itself, not much different. You still get the circle, color in the circles and put your ballot into the machine. It's just going to look different and function different for us on the administrative side.
You said HAVA, Help America Vote Act,
Yep.
right? Is it?
That paid for a portion of it. There was obviously not enough in that account that they had from previous usage, so the state of Michigan, I think, put in, I think, a third of what was remaining. The only thing that the city actually had to pay for was any extra equipment that we wanted for emergency purposes, if something goes down, so we have a couple machines available.
I had just one thing, pretty minor, but we put like the agenda packets together or anything. Can we combine PDFs as opposed to scanning some things? It gets hard to read after a couple scans, or it doesn't detect the text. Just use PDFs and put it together. It'll just look nicer.
Okay, and the issue on the agenda is basically just, once you guys make changes to the agenda process or how you want to see that, then we'll be able to make all the changes that's been requested from you folks all at one time.
Okay.
So,
Anything else?
Yeah, I had a kind of, in response to something that was said earlier, is our radar machine out all the time, though? I know we bought one. I think we got the extra bells and whistles for it.
Chief McNeils?
Talking about the speed trailer?
Right.
And the question was, is it out all the time?
Yeah, are we having it out always, every day on a street somewhere, or how does that?
Well, except for during the winter, yes, we move it around from location to location.
Okay. I haven't driven by and seen it anywhere, so I wasn't sure if it's always out there or not, but.
It's out on Hayes a few weeks ago.
Let's move on to our finance director. Mr. Blum,
Madam Mayor and Council.
welcome back from vacation.
Yeah, I wasn't going to have anything, but apparently I do now. So we'll talk water again. Again, going back to the way the water rates are set, every year when we start the budgeting process in January, we work off of projections we've been given by outside entities. We develop our costs based on that. We develop the rates based on that. The budget and the rates are approved generally a month to 2 months before we get final numbers from everybody. The water is purchased from the Great Lakes Water Authority. It used to be the Detroit Water Board. It's now the Great Lakes Water Authority. They committed to a 4% increase for the next 10 years. Putting it bluntly, they lied. We have been basing our estimates on a 4% increase. The usage portion of water has been anywhere from 4 to 8% over the last, well, this is our 4th year now. But they've also been increasing the fixed charges. Those have been anywhere from 8 to 16% per year. As an example, the current fiscal year that just started July 1st, we were told that the water rate increase system-wide was 0%. So somebody got a rate cut because Eastpointe got a 4% increase on the usage and an 8% increase on the fixed charge. So I don't know who got the reduction, but it wasn't us. This has been going on for a number of years, as well as those charges then flow back on the sewer side because the Great Lakes Water Authority also manages the sewage disposal operations. We ultimately get it. The Great Lakes Water Authority charges Wayne County, that charges the sanitary district, that charges the 3 communities that are members. Those costs have been going up, again, significantly more than 4% per year. And it's just a timing issue where we've been setting rates based on this 4% assumption, and the costs have not been coming in anywhere near that. Unfortunately, prior years the rates should have been higher, and this year we're basically just playing catch up to get the rates where they need to be to cover the cost. On the sewer side, about 80% of the cost of sewer is from the sanitary district, ultimately from our charge. On the water side, about 50% of it is the water charges from Great Lakes Water Authority, and the balance is the cost of fixing water main breaks, the sewer repairs related to that. As an example, the June 30th PRV issue that caused the pounding of the system and multiple water main breaks around the city. I don't know what the final tally is going to be, but I know today I approved 3 different recs for concrete work to replace all of the roads that were washed out because of that, and it will total over $300,000. We only budget $600,000 a year for concrete replacement. So July 1st, we're already halfway through our budget on concrete replacement from one incident. So, I mean, those are the types of things that have been driving the rates to go higher and higher. Like I said, this year is basically a year to get caught up to where we should have been. We're hoping that things will level off in the future, but there's so much that's dependent on outside entities and just events in general. I mean, there's no way you can project a water main break incident like we had back on July 1st. And that is where the water loss comes in. When you start getting the large water main breaks, and it just runs for hours until those things get fixed. It has nothing to do with contractors filling their tank as part of our projects, and that's also baked into the cost of those projects. It's assumed that they will use our water, otherwise they would charge us more for all the road projects and anything else they're using it for. I mean, that's a high-level synopsis of what's been going on, but I don't know if you have any other questions.
Well, both Michael and I sit on as delegate and alternate on the sanitary district, and I think we've been overwhelmed at times because we're faced with not just the Great Lakes Water Authority, but we're also faced with Wayne County. And they just give you what their rate increase is going to be, and you have to love it. There's no loving it and leaving it. You can negotiate it, and we are working to negotiate it, but when those increases come, there's not very much that you can do. So you're dealing with multiple entities, and each one of them wanted a lot more this year. So many of them are making a lot of capital improvements that supposedly are going to reduce our cost in the future. But in the meantime, it's something that we have to pass through. The water rate increase, when we first switched over to GLWA, we made major endeavors. Steve Duchesne and I sat in multiple meetings and worked really diligently, and we were able to reduce some of our costs, but you wouldn't have believed what initially some of these charges were going to be. We actually reduced some of them to about 50% of what they wanted to do as a whole to the suburbs. So we've been working really hard at it. It's just this year is just a catch-up, and there's no other way. There's just no other way this year, so we just have to bite the bullet, I think, for this year and then try. But I don't know whether you were down on 8 Mile and Kelly the other day. This is a fine example where our water loss goes. Somebody hit a fire hydrant and created a lake. And the lake was really pretty outstanding, and all that lake is lost water. So if you can keep people from hitting fire hydrants, it might reduce some of our costs next year.
As far as water loss goes, I would like to point out that probably it was 2005, 2006, right in there, we were running over 23% water loss before we started some major capital improvements. And we had been seeing a decline in the water loss until recently, where we had to slow down on the capital improvements, and now we're getting breaks again. And that's part of this, is creating the capital money to start back on doing the projects. So we did discuss painting the fire hydrants black so people couldn't see them and they would avoid them at night, but they seem to target them for some reason lately.
We've had 5 taken out in the last month.
Five.
Only
fire
one's been an
hydrants
insured
taken out
driver.
in the last month. And every time you knock one of those things down, I mean, that is a huge amount of water that's coming out of that hydrant very rapidly.
Related to that, this might be more for you, Mr. Ultimus. Do we know where the water basin, has there been any movement on that, being able to?
I know Mr. Pangori is still working on some things, but I have not pressed forward with that, the reservoir itself. I was hoping that part of the PRV conversation too was gonna include some of that discussion and where we're gonna go with it. So I've not delved into that yet.
It's coming.
Can we get more details on the 300,000 from July 1 on the concrete costs, please?
What type of detail?
Like which, just
Well,
how much
I'd like to
each,
give you the whole thing, not-
intersection cost,
Okay,
how much?
yeah.
we want to give you the whole thing, what the cost of labor and all that is. That's
Yeah, that was just the concrete
That
portion
was just the
that we're
concrete.
running
So
through
that was what I
J.J. Mish.
offered and told you that we still had remaining in your request on getting you information on that PRV. So
'Cause I'm assuming then too, like, the first day we throw some asphalt down, after we fix the main, we're not throwing concrete down on July 1, and then coming back and putting the concrete in.
and most of it's basically, rock and soil and stuff, trying to get that compacted down so it settles before we start putting concrete on it. So hopefully we can get Mr. Blum and I can get together and we can put the whole, labor and everything together so you can see the whole thing.
Okay.
Anything else for Mr. Blum? All right, let's move on to City Attorney, Mr. Albright.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. City administration is requesting that the council schedule 7 new show cause hearings. Those properties include 23098 Beaconsfield, 24850 Brittany, 24242 Melrose, 14928 Veronica, 24932 Tuscany, 22067 Gascony, and 22054 Oakwood. The next council meetings in October would be either October 3rd or October 7th. Either of those meetings would allow the city attorney's office to get out the necessary notice to the property owners and interested parties.
Did you say the 3rd and the 7th?
17th.
17th.
Meant to say the 17th if I said the 7th.
Are we going to have maybe one more? That was from earlier too.
It's possible, so there might be 8 total. But 6 o'clock seemed to work well for tonight's show cause hearings. We were done. We still had about 20 minutes left, I believe.
So council, you want to do it 1 month from now, so the first meeting?
The
This
3rd.
6th, the 3rd. What day would that be?
Tuesday, October 3rd
Okay,
at 6 o'clock.
at 6.
That give that one property that had some legal issues that we were supposed to, does that give them enough time, you think?
I think it would. I plan on speaking with the attorney tomorrow, Ms. Puttick, regarding that. And other than that, Madam Mayor, council's in receipt of our monthly status report for the month of September. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the monthly status report or any other questions council may have.
Looks like you've been very busy.
That monthly status report has grown over the years, yes.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to new business. Our first item is the adoption resolution of number 1841, approve the distribution of the draft master plan update.
Madam Mayor, I motion to adopt resolution number 1841, approving the distribution of the draft City of Eastpointe Master Plan Update, August 2017, pursuant to Section 41-1 of the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, Public Act 33 of 2008, and direct the Deputy City Clerk to notify the Secretary of the Planning Commission of the City Council's approval of distribution.
Support.
I
We had a
have s-
represent, yeah.
I have many questions on this. Ms. Van Haren Lee?
No.
And we have a representative from McKenna here.
If you wouldn't mind. First of all, was Ms. McKenna, from McKenna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah,
please?
I'd love to. My name is Sarah Traxler. I'm with McKenna Associates. I'm a vice president, and I am the community manager for our Eastpointe services. So I oversee all of our projects here, including the master plan.
So my question is, where are you distributing these?
Sure. So the state law requires that the master plan be distributed to a number of different entities. I think this is sort of the state's effort at requiring us to be somewhat regionally minded. So we're required to send it to your neighboring communities, anywhere that you share a border or even touch, a corner of a community. With Macomb County, your Council of Governments, which is, of course, Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, SEMCOG, and then any other utilities that have notice on file. These are the same people that we sent out at the beginning of the process, our notice of intent to prepare a master plan. So Mary and I were talking earlier tonight about the way that we would be also, kind of putting it out to the public as well, in addition to the yet to come public hearing. We'd be placing it on the city's website for review and actually notifying those other entities that they can go and review it on the city's website. The state act requires that they have 63 days to comment on the plan. Most communities don't. Most times the county doesn't, so you really might not even receive a single comment from those required entities. But we'll keep it open during that period. And then it's referred back to Planning Commission. The way that I envision, were you to authorize distribution of it tonight, the way I envision the schedule going would be that in November, I'm sorry, in December. So the 63-day period would end in November, just after the Planning Commission meeting for that month. So we would have about 3 weeks to receive any comments from you all, from planning commissioners who might have thought of something, from the public, anyone else who might have comments. Package those together, probably in memorandum form, for Planning Commission to consider again in November. And then if they felt comfortable, they could call for scheduling the public hearing for December, at which time the Planning Commission holds their required public hearing. And if they decided to endorse the master plan, they would adopt it that evening and recommend that City Council adopt it when it came in front of you. So the way that schedule works out is that I see the Planning Commission public hearing being in January and Council considering it again in February. So there's a number of additional touches here, and what we're asking tonight is for you to simply distribute the draft to those required entities so that we can continue the momentum.
How are you going to distribute it locally?
We can work with you to distribute it however you want.
Multiple copies at the library for people to review?
That'd be great. Yep, I like that idea.
As well as rare. But there's nothing on this that says this is a draft?
It's not on your cover page. So on page 1, it says adopted by the Eastpointe City Council on blank, but we can stamp draft really broadly through it. Yep.
I'd like to see a lot more input from our local community into this, and I know you've had a couple hearings.
We have.
But they were really pretty sparsely attended.
That's right.
So I would like to get a lot more, when people see this, I think that they might give a little bit more input
Yeah.
as to some of the goals.
It's always easier to respond to something that you have in front of you. It's hard for people to envision what is possible. So I really like the idea of, trying to make a push for that. We could do it with the seniors again, maybe, just kind of a little note card for them to review it, and other entities as well.
I'd say what we similarly do with Music in the Plaza, post on the homepage, post on Facebook, send out an email saying it's there.
And we'll make sure that all our boards and commissions are notified of the draft master plan and get copies of it for their review.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item B is a special event application for Gianna House for a house fundraising event on Thursday, September 22nd.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to approve the request from Guyana House to hold a fundraising event on Thursday, September 21st, 2017, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. with the following conditions. Number 1, that a business license is obtained prior to the event, and 2, that an authorized representative of Guyana House sign a hold harmless agreement.
Support.
I have a question. Why do they have to apply for this? Because it's a closed group, it's in their backyard or in their home. Why do they have to apply for a permit? And why does it say that they have to have a business license to have this event? Mm-hmm.
Any commercial properties that want to hold an event outside have to get the city council's approval to do so. They don't have any explicit approval to do anything outside their buildings.
The business license aspect is they've been going through some transitions. I'm not worried about them getting that. They've been working with Ms. Van Haren on that. It's just that we have to note it and make sure we're covering the clerk's office. I'm not overly worried about that, but normally every commercial or business having an outside event is licensed, so.
So, and this is a business, not a nonprofit?
Well, it's both. It is a business, though, and it happens to be nonprofit.
They've been going through the process. It's just,
Oh, I know.
you know, they've lost some special people in the middle of working on it.
All right, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Item C is to schedule a public hearing on the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to schedule a public hearing for September 19th, 2017 at 7 p.m. on the City of Eastpointe's Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant.
Support, but I do have a question on this. I'm not sure if this might have been a typo in the memorandum. Is the deadline to submit this grant application the 5th of this month?
It's today, right?
That's correct.
Are you pushing send right after this?
It's been submitted. We're allowed to submit for the grant. There's a very close timeline between the time we're notified and the time we have to submit it. What we are required to do, though, is before it's approved for disbursement, we have to show that we did have a public hearing and an opportunity for that to happen. The timelines have been so close the last few years that we have to work on the grant and submit it before we can even get that public hearing scheduled.
When were we notified?
I don't know the exact date. It was probably 4 weeks ago now. But we have to first get an agenda item to ask to schedule the public hearing and then a date for the public hearing to occur, so.
Okay, the memo does say that the public comment has to occur before the submission of the grant. So I was concerned about getting it when I read it.
Well, that probably is a misrepresentation. That it probably should say before final approval of the grant.
Disbursement?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And I will also make a copy of the grant that was submitted available to the council to review as we're required to do also. So that'll be in the next packet.
I was just wondering, I'm not going to call him and say anything, so.
Right, we have a motion and a support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Item D is the purchase of 2 unmarked police vehicles. Do we have a motion?
Sure, Madam Mayor, I'll motion to waive competitive bidding requirements due to no advantage to the city and approve the purchase of 2 unmarked vehicles for the police department in the amount of $54,086.
Support.
Move to support. Any discussion?
Just like to say, I sent an email out about, there's a Ford recall, and it was on police vehicles, so just want to make sure we don't, or at least look at that. I don't, maybe
Yeah,
it'll be fixed.
Didn't
but-
you say that was on the 2017s?
Yes, I did
Which
get,
we
I
haven't
did
even
get the
received
email, and I appreciate the notice. We would get the notice also. It involved the 2017 police marked vehicle, which we do have one on order. We're assuming that Ford will take care of that recall item before they actually deliver it, but we are aware of it.
Okay. Thank you. And then just for everyone in the public about just the wording about the waiving competitive bidding requirements, we're using Oakland County's bid that they already competitively bid. So we don't have to do it ourselves. They've done it, and we know it's a competitive price.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Item E is the approval of the telecommunications right-of-way permit for MCI Metro.
MCI Metro.
MCI Metro.
Verizon.
Access for transmission services doing business as Verizon Access. We have a motion.
Madam Mayor, I will motion to approve the telecommunications right-of-way permit for 15 years with a 15-year renewal to MCI Metro Access Transmission Services Corporation, doing business as Verizon Access Transmission Services, and authorize the Assistant City Manager to execute all necessary documents related to this permit.
Support.
We support it.
One question, is this underground or overhead? Because I thought the map was supposed to say, but I couldn't tell.
Yeah, the conversation I've had with them, it was going to be overhead.
Okay.
Because if you look at the route they're going, it's nearly impossible trying to put something underground and crash it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I thought that'd be a pretty major.
yeah, it's whichever pole locations that they're going to go through, and they have to have, obviously, DTE's sign off on all that, too. So,
And they just, of course, use the same poles that are
correct.
already there.
Yeah, they have to have permission.
And then I think I had one, oh, okay, so then they also said like beginning July 2017. I'm assuming they'll just begin now that we approve it.
Yeah, once we get done approving it, it goes to the state through the Metro Authority or Metro Act Authority, and then all the paperwork's processed through them, and then they'll be able to be allowed to start their process.
Okay.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Item F is the approval of the sale and the financing of 15617 Crescent Wood. Anybody want to? Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to authorize the sale of 15617 Crescentwood to Janine Wadley under a land contract in the amount of $35,000 and authorize the Assistant City Manager to execute all necessary documents for this sale.
Support.
Move support.
And a couple quick questions. Well, I think Mr. Kleinfeld, this is one of the tax reversion properties, so I guess we're selling one of them before we do them as a group, as we've discussed then?
Yeah,
So what's going on?
sorry, did you want to answer him or?
Oh, he was correct. I thought he was talking to you.
Sorry. I wasn't sure.
Well, yeah, I guess both of you.
I thought it was more of a statement.
Yeah. I guess I assumed I was correct, I guess, if I didn't hear from either of you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do want to move forward with something like this, setting up a situation where we might do right of first refusal to occupants or something like that. Mr. Albright, have you had a chance to look into anything related to that to see if there's?
I addressed that in our status report, and I indicated that I'd have a full, complete answer by either before, by or before the deadline for the next status report. Yeah, because I still want to look at some other communities to see if they have anything.
Okay. So a couple of questions. First, on the sales contract, item number 11, risk of loss, hazard insurance. Seller agrees to keep hazard insurance on the structure. That didn't seem,
That,
That's homeowners
is that
insurance.
supposed to be homeowners? Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah, no,
hazard insurance is its proper term. It's just commonly referred to as homeowners
yeah,
insurance.
no, my issue is the seller agrees to keep insurance on the property. Does that mean we're?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, it should be buyer.
Okay.
Saved us a bit of money there. Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
I think that was my only question related to that. Oh, I actually did have one more thing in terms of the motion. Do we need to explicitly approve this agreement because it has council approval? Should it be we're approving the land contract and the real estate sales
Right.
contract?
That was the part about all necessary documents. We're doing both at once.
Okay.
In the 9 Mile property, we did we did the auction, and then you approved it, and then we did land contract and had to come back. So you actually approved 2 different motions on that one. We're just rolling them all together.
Okay, just want to make sure that they both were approved, so.
And I just was curious, I don't recognize this name. Is this an employee or a resident or?
No, this is one where it was a tenant, and the landlord lost the property, and as Mr. Marucci made the rounds to see which properties were occupied, this was one. And for the first time ever, a tenant said, yes, I'll buy it. We've offered this before. Most people just say, nope, I'm moving. So we're very pleased to be able to do this. So we're turning a renter into a homeowner.
That's great. And they can pay off early if they want?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. A couple of the the clauses sounded kind of like maybe that wasn't the case, but I
No,
figured
it's
you
just
always are
legalese,
able
it
to.
confuses everybody. Blame it on Rich. No.
Thanks.
No, if she wants to go out and get a mortgage and pay the land contract off, that's perfectly within her right.
Okay.
So, yep.
Thank you.
And she is here tonight, by the way.
Cool.
All right. We have a motion.
Mm-hmm.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Item G is a massage therapy business license for Kelly Spa Services located at 22770. We have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve the massage therapy business license for Kelly Spa Services located at 22770 Kelly Road, due to the business meeting all the requirements of Chapter 12, Section 4 of the City of Eastpointe Coded Enforcements for a massage therapy business license.
I think just section
Section
6,
six.
and I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion on this? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Item H is the MML City Manager Search Timeline. Mr. Altimus, do you want to talk about this?
Well, I asked Kathy Grinziker to give us kind of a highlight of where we're going to go next. So I wanted the council to have an opportunity to look at what she perceived as our next step. I can work with her on specific dates to work with you folks through the process. But I wanted to make sure we were all on, I was on the same page as what everybody was thinking at this point. And I think once I get through this part and meet with her, then we can start getting dates set up and start moving forward through the process.
So the dates in this email we can adjust then?
Yes.
Those are just her recommendations?
Yeah, that was just her recommendation. We'll have to modify some of those a little bit based on, your availability at some point based on, vacations and stuff and other community folks. So those were just her recommendations at this point. That's why I kind of left the motion open to let me work with her on the dates. Unless you have some concerns or wanted to move something forward a little further, versus her talking about November, you want to do it in October, and you want something else starting in September. I just need to know that, and then I'll move forward.
I don't know if I misunderstood from when we talked with her here, but I thought the first meeting was with city council, and it's like flip-flopped here. It says, meeting with department directors. I thought she wanted
Well, there
input of
was
city council first.
conversation that went both ways, and we weren't sure we picked up on that, or whether you wanted to do one, do the council first and the community second, or just get started with the community going forward and then wait for the election.
I thought she didn't want to meet with council until after the election.
Well, she did say that, but I thought that she wanted to meet with city council first to get our ideas of who we wanted to see as a city manager, and then start the timeline. I thought the very first meeting was meet with us. I don't know why you'd meet with, the department heads and other folks first, and then us. That just didn't seem to make sense to me.
I have a lot to say on this. When I got to this email, it actually made me a little bit angry. When we signed our separation agreement with Steve Duchesne, part of the conversation was that he would have some outgoing time in the office to help with the transition. He had some severance pay associated with that for a time, and he made it clear he would avail himself to, during that time period, to assist possibly a new city manager. When our conversations kicked off, it never sounded like it was going to take this long. Getting the meeting together to even have her give us a pitch, in my opinion, took too long. I was not that convinced that the services were something that were going to really help us out. I had a lot of questions, and I had a lot of stuff I wanted to follow up with, and I was just going to do it at the first meeting that we had with her. This timeline's ridiculous, and I also, quite frankly, you know, they offer a service, we're hiring them to do it, and then she's a very nice lady. It's not against her, but I don't think that it was entirely appropriate for her to say, thank you for hiring me. I'd like to wait till the next council is here for me to start what you guys hired me to do. Our last city manager, we did not use MML to hire, except for posting on their website. I went through, did some research, went through the minutes. From the date that council agreed they wanted to pursue hiring a city manager to the day that they made an offer, it was 84 days. We are now 91 days from when we decided we need to search for a new manager. I'm at the point, I don't think we need an MML. If we can't find someone, I'd be happy to go back and revisit it, but it's part of the agreement that we signed that we can terminate at any time, and any of the services that haven't been rendered yet, we get the portion of the money back. Thus far, nothing's been done. We're 91 days out, nothing has been done. And with the timeline that she's proposing, we could take 90 days to try it ourselves. And if we were unsuccessful, we still wouldn't be starting the MML process any earlier. So I am going to make a motion to direct administration to immediately notify MML that we do not want to use their services, and to post job posting for city manager on the ICMA website and then in the MML website. And we can do the same process we did last time, where council got resumes. I believe everyone rated top certain number and then interviewed them. And if we're unhappy at that point afterwards, we can revisit using MML, but I just can't believe how slow this process has been. So I'm not willing to wait, and my motion's out there.
Are you going to make the motion?
He did. That was the whole motion.
That was the whole motion?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
in between all the explanations
Yeah.
why I was upset with this.
I think the main reason why there's such a delay is because of the iffiness of city council come November. There are 3 positions that are open, and that was the reason why, because it's highly doubtful that you're going to get anyone to come here and interview, given the idea that you have 3 out of 4 city council positions that could be filled by other people than what are sitting on the council.
I still don't foresee us filling it probably before November 7th, but we have to start the process. We've been sitting on our hands too long.
Well, that's not saying that she's not already gone through all those searches and looked.
Well, she couldn't have looked yet. She
We
needs
didn't
our
give her-
criteria.
Yeah.
First step hasn't been done. So my expectation is when we terminate it, unless she's done some sort of prep, we probably get the full $18,000 back.
We haven't paid anything.
No, we haven't paid anything. They would have billed us at the end.
Okay.
That's usually how they do it. They bill us at the end. The only thing we've done is send them a copy of the signed contract that was approved at the last meeting.
How many applicants, does anybody remember? Do you remember how many applicants we had when council decided to go out? I think we had 3.
I don't remember anymore. That was,
I remember well.
My understanding was that there were 3 interviewed.
We didn't get very many applicants.
When was the that 84 days? If you had the dates available.
Yes, I do. Council decided on May 31st, 2011, let's do this. And on 8/23rd, they made an offer.
On August
She
23rd.
came down on July. Cardi wanted her to come on July 18th, as I recall, and she couldn't do that at that particular time, and there was no one else to come, and so that's why she came later than that. Because they were
You know what?
busy.
I understand that they offer a lot of services, but as I said, I didn't view some of the process that was pitched to us as being invaluable, as something that was going to aid us that much. I feel like if we're paying someone $18,000 to collect resumes and sort them out for us, and there are 4 people on their team. There are 4 recruiters, and if it's going to be that hard to schedule things, I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait every time one person can't show up from MML. It's 2 weeks out, or three weeks out.
How are you
kicking
going to be going out and researching the people? You're going to put your request out on MML's?
I'm proposing the exact same process that we went through the last time when Steve Duchesne was hired. And the time before that, when we had Darwin, he was hired through MML. And, I mean, out of our last
But the
2,
council did not follow the recommendations of the MML person at that time.
well, out of the past 2 hirings that we've had, Eastpointe fared much better when council conducted their own interviews, looked through the resume. I'm willing to take the time to sit down and look through a
And
ton.
how are you going to check the references and all?
I believe we
I
did that
don't think
in-house.
that's an issue. I mean, I can call the references if I want to, but the only thing I was concerned about was trying to hire a third party to do a background check or something if we get to the final stages. But other than that, I think we're entirely capable of sorting through resumes and coming up with questions and interviewing and deciding someone is right for the job.
Well, you made a motion, call roll.
I need
well,
support
we'll be-
first.
Well, and a few more things probably, I'm guessing, council wants to say. I guess, yeah, I was not extremely happy with this email. I thought for sure that I thought when we approved this last meeting, it was assumed that the next time we got together, because she wanted to do it in public. I know we didn't specifically say September 5th, but I thought she was just showing up to this meeting, and then we got this, and I thought that's when we were starting it. You know, I was gonna be ready to talk about what we want to see in a manager, and I thought we were starting now. Besides that, I think the dates couldn't have been too much quicker, and I don't think that's a huge issue to me since we have Mr. Altimus. He's, doing a fine job for now. But I thought that we were it sounded good to me, we'd get it started now, and it'd end after the election. That's what we talked about before. The new council people would be able to interview the final folks, and I imagine it wouldn't be too different as if those council people were on council now. I think they would want to see similar folks on as the city manager. Not sure how I feel about your motion, Mr. Kleinfeld, but I know you'd hate to hear me say this, but I think I'd have to think about that till next meeting. I don't know about just cutting off right now. Personally, I don't know if Ms. Lucido or someone else wanted
Well, I
to.
mean, if we were to hold off until the next meeting, let's say we were to table this, is there any way we could at least, if we were to decide not to go with Mr. Kleinfeld's recommendation, at least discuss what our timeline for the MML would be? Because let's see if we're even going to agree on a timeline on how we would want the MML if we were to make that as a decision instead of Mr. Kleinfeld's motion.
Sure.
I don't have my original, I guess, notes here because I had put dates next to their whole timeline. I don't have it on this, this copy right in front of me. But yeah, I thought day one was today. And then so 16 weeks from now, you know, we're doing second interviews, week 13 and 14. That's 3 months from now, October, November, December. So, you know, a month in, the new city council would be doing, first interviews are like a week before that. They'd be doing those. So I thought that was the timeline. Apparently we weren't all on the same page.
No, I agree. I thought we were going to start the process right away. I agree with that.
It's entirely possible for us to try to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, MML doesn't want to sit down with council until months down the line. I don't see the benefit of waiting. I don't think it's fair to Mr. Ultimus to drag our feet on this issue because someone's taking care of the job. We ought to be taking steps to try to hire someone. And if we can't find someone, then we take more drastic steps. But when we first started this process, I can't believe that we're 91 days down the line and nothing has been done. We haven't so much as posted. And now we have to wait to get a meeting to talk about what we want to post and who we want to look for. I mean, the process, if you know, I'm sure if we say, no, you need to meet with council now to get the posting up, we can probably do it a month from now. But I don't see the benefit. And you know, it's also costly. So we're paying money to slow down a process that I don't think we need to be paying at this point. I think we ought to try to handle this ourselves. And a lot of what was pitched to us was sitting us all down and coming up with what we would all find agreeable. We're entirely capable of having a conversation with each other and going back on the different points that are important to us in a city manager. I don't think we necessarily need a facilitator for that.
No, I agree with that. I think that we could have that discussion.
What we could do is pull the file from the last time and give you exactly what we sent out and what we put together for the last search and let you look at that. That'll give you some starting point if that's what you so desire.
So should we just table this motion until our next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, and then get that information? And then we can maybe make a better decision at that time?
I would support that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to table the motion. It's dead. It's never
Yeah.
never been seconded. But
Yeah, I was going to say I would have just
Well,
had
we
to
just
vote
had
no to consider it further. I don't think I'd feel comfortable
Right.
making that decision right now, but be happy to discuss it. So then, what should our response be to?
Well, you
Ms.
just have to
Grinzinger?
change your motion. Either table it, accept it, or change it.
well, I mean, someone else can make a motion now. Mine's
I'll just.
Well, this was just to approve the timeline. So are we just tabling this agenda item?
Well, like, what Michael wants to do is to cancel Michigan Municipal League.
No, I know, but he never had the support to make that, for that motion to go through.
Okay.
So, I guess what we're asking, like, right now, should we just table this motion
Right.
For
2 weeks so we can get the information if we would want to go?
to schedule the next meeting, or is to reschedule the time
To
frame?
give us
or-
a chance to look at our options if we were to do this search on ourselves, or if we still want to go through with going through MML.
Well, then just make a motion to table it.
Yeah, I'll just make a motion, then we'll table it, and
To the
just,
next,
this will be back on our meeting. If we want to change to Mr. Kleinfeld's, we just make whichever motion then. So I'll motion to table the approval of the MML timeline for the city manager search.
Support.
please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
No.
Our next item is adoption of the resolution number 1840 for city council dates.
Madam Mayor, I'll motion to adopt resolution number 1840, establishing the 2018 regular meeting schedule for the Eastpointe City Council in accordance with Section 5 of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, Public Act 267 of 1976.
Support.
Student
The-
support.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I
Did you-
had a question. too.
I just had one question also.
What is it?
My question
first.
was, is there any way we could change the July 3rd date to the following week?
Now is the time.
I mean, because the holiday's on the 4th, it's going to be a long weekend, people might want to go to town. So that would change it to the 10th?
Yeah, probably sounds.
Anything else?
And then my question was for January for the first meeting. Hold on, let me just make that change. Macomb County was going to do its 200th birthday bash that night on the 9th, and I was just curious as to why we weren't doing it the 2nd instead of the 9th anyway. I know it's the day after the new year, but didn't seem like that big of an issue, but, or,
Thinking,
And took January 1st and 2nd as the holiday.
Okay.
Because it fell on Sunday and Monday, so we move it forward to Tuesdays. That's why we're not having it on the 2nd.
okay.
But if you want to move it to the day after the 3rd, you can to Wednesday.
Yeah, or the Monday even or something, can we do that? Or
I'm
do,
not sure when the school board meets.
That would depend on school board schedule.
yeah, it's the 2nd and 4th, right?
Well, I mean, we could do Wednesday the 3rd.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if anyone else has any other meetings on that Wednesday.
Usually
curious.
Wednesdays are free.
Or else.
I don't have a problem with the Wednesday. Anyone?
No, I don't have a problem with Wednesday.
All right, 2 changes.
Maybe in July, do you want to stretch that out and give 2 weeks between the 10th and maybe the 24th? Since the August, first meeting in August is the 14th.
Instead of going back to back.
Instead of going back to back. I'm just thinking that's the end of the fiscal year. No, it's the
Right,
beginning of
yeah.
the fiscal
Well,
year.
like, do like the 10th and the 24th?
Right.
Okay.
I think so.
It's next year, I don't have any planned.
Didn't know there'd be so much discussion on this.
So, Linda, why the 14th? Is that the first
There's an election.
uh,
There's a primary election.
primary election? Okay.
Next year is state election.
Okay.
All right, I think we're all set.
So,
If we have a motion on that.
motion second, I just need to call roll.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes?
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Item K, the adoption of resolution number 1842, declaring the intent to refrain from authorizing medical marijuana facilities. This is just an opt-out. This was sent around to all the listservs with the cities and mayors. This was an addition. Currently, our ordinance covers us. So this was just something restating it.
You said it was disseminated to the communities? Do
To
you
all the
know
communities,
who-
and most of the communities are taking the resolution as an opt-out.
From who? Do you know? Was it like a lobbyist organization?
They're just deciding, no, it's just, not everybody has an ordinance like we do. And so they're doing this as an opt-out to say, it's just kind of a double emphasis on the medical marijuana facilities.
Aren't we opted out until we
We
did
have
something?
we have an ordinance currently.
We have an ordinance
We haven't,
against the.
we haven't changed our
right now.
ordinance. Mr. Albright
Yeah,
can explain.
We presently do not allow the use of marijuana in this way. The city's decided that back when the laws changed many years ago, that they weren't going to take any position one way or another. And so the city hasn't created any districts or anything like that. But these new set of laws address the different licenses that are available. And if the city wants to take the position that they don't want to allow the licenses by just simply doing nothing, then the city can take that position. City could also decide to pass this resolution, which then shows what the current position is of the city council and the city, or could decide not to do anything. And if the city does pass this resolution this evening, this could simply be superseded down the road by another resolution indicating that the council wants to take steps and avail itself of the different licenses that are available through the state.
Or we could do nothing.
So is everything final with the licensing board anyway? It says will not begin accepting till December 15th this year. I thought that there were still things that needed to be cleared up before
There are.
then.
I think the legislation is almost complete now.
Yeah, I just suggest,
What the city has been
Wait
doing
till
as
then.
well is just following state law with allowing caregivers and anybody that has a medical marijuana license, then they're allowed to, utilize that license. This particular, like I said, new set of laws is covering people that obtain different licenses to provide and provide marijuana to different individuals. So it's essentially, it's allowing for dispensaries in some respects.
There's one or two cities that I know of in the eastern part of the state that decided not to take any action. But most of them in the area are opting out.
I wouldn't want to take action. I think it's a little
Overboard.
redundant, yeah, just because no one can set up shop here anyway unless we have a discussion on it. So, when I read it, part of my concern was, I don't know if the city's been approached with propositions from any business owners or anything like that, but I wouldn't want to pass a resolution that sort of directs administration, you don't even pass that on to council. They've already decided, no, go home. So I'd rather just leave things as they are right now, and if we decide to have a discussion on it, we'll talk about it then.
That's fine. Everybody else feel the same way?
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
I turned off the air.
The last item is the introduction and the first reading of ordinance number 1144, which is the bylaws of council.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to introduce and give first reading to ordinance 1144, which amends Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, City Council, Section 2.21, bylaws of council, and schedule the ordinance for second reading and consideration for adoption at City Council's September 19th regular meeting.
support that, and would have been helpful today, even.
Yes, I'm happy to see this change.
All right. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Item 8, payroll and bills. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $5,201,715.91.
Support.
Move support. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. And now we come to the second hearing of the public. You want to use your 30 seconds, Mr.? Mr. Creech, did you want to be heard again?
Please. Yes, Madam Mayor, Harvey Creech. Even the last time I was here, I asked, and I don't think anybody told me, I still don't know what we have in our fund balance, our water fund balance. I mean, it's, apparently, right here, it said beginning fund balance. This, I'm going back 5 years, 14, 15 to 18. It said, right now, we should have 45,100,127, but it doesn't say what we got to work with. And no one seems to know. I've heard 3 different people, they said, wait till November and we'll tell you. How can we possibly run a city and we don't even know how much money we've got in our fund balance? We're doing it. And yet, Randy, I appreciate, I'm glad you brought to the attention the fire hydrants and this, that, and the other. And I'm glad you brought to the attention that we're using our money and our water instead of using somebody else's to do our projects and stuff like that. I'm still not buying into it. I want an itemized breakdown anymore. This is crazy. You can tell us anything. You know, tell them lies and feed them candy. As far as I'm concerned, there's a whole lot of non-truths up here. I'm not saying anybody's lying. I'm just saying we're not being told the truth. Because I'm saying it's got the fund balance. Like, I right here, and I understand, somebody just told me recently that I didn't know how to read a budget. But here again, too, our new budget says, in our water and sewer department construction projects, it says what we want to do this year of 17 and 18, we want to spend $3,800,000. In 18 and 19, we want to spend $11 million in CIP. Where are you getting that money from? One place, water bill. Yeah, that's where you're getting your money from, no matter how you look at it. There's only one way to get that money. And this is what you're talking about. I understand the CIP, like me and the mayor discussed once before, but I'm still on the same thing about Spindler. And excuse me, as I say about Spindler, there again, 200 the CIP. This is what I don't understand. I'm hoping that maybe Randy, and you, or especially the council, can maybe really explain this one to me on a breakdown of the money spent on Spindler. And I asked this question before too. Please listen to these figures: $4,298, $4,975, $4,996, $4,956, $4,995, $4,990, $4,000. All these are pretty close to $5,000 for checks written to Star Mechanical. Who's Star Mechanical? Did you people all agree to all this work that was being done? The Moore and Spindler? Did every one of those come in front of you? And there's more and more and more and more. I'm not going to say between the finance manager, the city manager, and the rest of the stuff, there's a whole lot of checks under $5,000. Is there an agreement made that they don't have to come to the city council if it's under $5,000? A lot of checks being written out here. I can go on for some more and more. As I said, there's a lot of questions that I think the residents and me ought to get answers to, that I don't think, as I said, Star Mechanical, who are they? And there again, too, as I said, they were written for Memorial and Spindler, and I still don't know where, some of the monies are, but here's some of it, and I'd like to know where the rest of it is. And as I said, under, the Patriot Building, I've asked for that, the Spindler, and I really agree. I'm glad to see we're getting a parking lot done out there, and I've asked this once before. Me and Dan and Joe went through some of our parks. We checked them over. Dan would like to ask 2 questions. Where's the swings at Spindler? Why are all our trees dying? I know all our trees are dying because they're not being taken care of. And the thing I really want to ask, as I said once before too, when there was no contractor, no engineer on the Spindler parking lot, in the pathway, it's blowing apart. Mr. Pangori, excuse me for saying this, Michael, you asked a question about our parking lot. It should last 20 years. That parking lot's less than 2 years old, and it's blowing apart. We spent all that money on that one, too. Not under contract.
Mr. Creech.
These things that we do, they're not under contract. Who's going to fix them? I asked the council that. How do we get this thing? How do we get these resolved and fixed if they're not under contract?
Mr. Creech, your time is up.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else wish to be heard? Sir?
Hello. I just had one or two more questions about just, something I noticed on my bill for years. It's the garbage collection. We're all being charged the same amount. Why is this not on our taxes and we're charged per our square lot? I live in a household with 2 human beings, me and someone else. We shouldn't have to pay the same amount for a 6 people family. I think that's unfair, and I think this should be the first thing to go. And I think renegotiations with the water authority also need to keep going. You can't just stop fighting for your residents. It's important that we're all happy living here. And this doesn't make me happy. I've actually considered moving because Roseville pays less, Hazel Park pays a lot less. I know 2 people on the council there, or 1, and then the other one is about to be. So, I mean, it's coming from a good source, and there's no reason for it to be this expensive. And if you guys didn't know that you were being undercharged for years, I'd like to know why you didn't know and what you plan to do in the future to not let this happen again. And when will the prices stabilize? Am I going to see another 37% increase next year? This doesn't make me happy, or anyone else in this room, or the people watching this online, whoever is watching. I respect what you do, but honestly, please try harder. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Please state your name.
Still the same, Karen Morajan. Again, in regards to the tethering, as I stated earlier, I know you listed several reasons in the article, the changes you wanted to make. Still, the tethering really needs to be abolished, because how are you going to be able to enforce this? You have one animal control officer, and if I remember correctly, she's only part-time. You can't always count on the residents. I have been all over the state of Michigan. I've talked to, just hundreds of thousands of people, and I'm so tired of hearing people say, I feel bad for the animal. Well, you know what? Sitting there and saying you feel bad for the animal does not help that animal. People need to pick up the phone and call whenever they see abuse and neglect. Another problem is when you have homes throughout Eastpointe and there are no fences. One of the other ordinances is you're not supposed to have animals at large. Well, last I remember, we have over 40% renters, and that's a coin toss. You have some renters who are responsible. You have some people who have, companion animals. They are responsible, but sadly, you have a lot of people who are outrageously irresponsible, and I've worked in numerous shelters, and honest to God, I am so sick and tired of watching animals being euthanized. Why? Because of human stupidity, callousness, abuse, cruelty, neglect. These animals were not born vicious. It's about how you treat the animal. And if you tether an animal, that's how you wind up with a problem animal, with them being vicious. And who winds up paying with their lives? The dog. And the so-called owners get a slap on the wrist. So I hope you reconsider and abolish it.
Does anyone else wish to be heard? Anyone else? Seeing none, the second hearing in the public is closed. We'll move on to mayor and council reports. We'll start with Mr. Kleinfeld.
Madam Mayor, I don't have anything this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Lucido?
I just have a couple of quick things. First of all, the library will be hosting Plato's Exchange Thursday, September 14th at 6:30 p.m. The subject is going to be education, And also, just to let everyone know, the 8 Mile Homeowners Association will be hosting a Meet the Candidate Night, September 20th at 7 p.m., and that's located at Pleasant View Elementary School. And the only other thing I would like to say is I would like to wish my husband a happy anniversary. We celebrated our 17th anniversary on Monday, so happy anniversary.
Thank you. Mr. DeMonaco.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for coming out, talking at hearing of the public. Appreciate hearing your input. Second, our deck the halls that the chamber does. Last year, I won an auction there to go to the fire department, get a tour, brought my 7-year-old nephew, and the firefighters couldn't have been nicer. Unit 1 also calls themselves Red Unit. Were the gentleman that showed my nephew around. He got to, shoot the hose a little bit, went up in the ladder truck. So if I got a little niece or nephew, come to Deck the Halls this next year and bid against me. Well, I won't be bidding for that this year, so bid against someone else. Second, I went to a business exchange for the chamber, another good event. They just, I think it's the first time they've done it, was an event with four other chambers here, and I got to meet a lot of folks from the area, and that was a really nice event. If they do it again, come on over. And then we had an event here at City Hall about trees, learned quite a few things about trees. And soon I think we'll be talking about hopefully trying to plant some more trees in Eastpointe. And then also, I have to mention, Miss Van Haren is not here anymore, but we are looking for artists in Eastpointe. If anyone knows an artist, we are doing a show and looking for artists to put in their art. We call for artists from September 7th to September 30th, and we'll be showing off the art October 26th to November 3rd at the Patriot Building, which is at Spindler Park. So if you know someone, let them know, submit their art, and hopefully we can show it at the Patriot Building. And one other thing, if I can round back to hearing of the public, I definitely listen as closely as I can to all residents. I considered the water and sewer rate increases, and I did vote against the increases that were suggested by city administration. Now, I do think they did definitely need to go up, and this is what we discussed at that meeting. Not as high as they went, but definitely the increases. There are increases that we can't control that go up. We have a very limited control on those for the water and sewer rates from the Great Lakes Water Authority and from our southeast Macomb sewage district. And it's definitely a very hard, very complicated problem, but I'd like to continue that discussion for sure. And also, besides coming to the meeting, appreciate any letters from any residents or any members of the community. As I've suggested in the past, please continue sharing with me. As I've said before, I'm available via phone or email, 586-744-3864, or cdemonaco@eastpointcity.org. That's on the website. And sorry for the lengthy update, Madam Mayor. All set now.
It's fine. I just have a few things. I really have to comment on the water bills. I think we have done everything possible to keep our water bills where we could still provide some funds for replacement of additional water lines. We started a program back in 2005. At that time, we had 80 miles of water lines that needed to be replaced. So we've taken a proactive route to try and reduce that so that we have quality, so we're not losing as much water. It was just back in 2014, I believe, that we had something like 45 water main breaks just because of the ice. So when you have really, really cold weather, you're bound to have some water main breaks, and they're out there fixing them, but in the meantime, you lose a lot of water. I think we have negotiated as much as we can. I think they hate to see the city of Eastpointe come to any of the meetings that we have related to water increases. But we fight for every single one of our residents, and know, just like anybody else, I am a senior and I live on, I don't even have a pension, I live on my Social Security, so when it goes up, I feel it just as much. I was in the middle of the line this morning, talking to a number of people and trying to resolve a couple of the issues that people had. It hurts everybody, but I think this is one of the years that we have to bite the bullet. We tried to spare the bullet last year when we saw some of the increases, but they kind of lied to us about, well, you're only going to have a 4% raise, and you're only going to have a 4%, but then along comes a 10%, and then there's a 4% more. So all those things, and we've tried, there isn't anybody that's worked harder on keeping the water bills down than Randy and Steve Duchesne. They have just put every ounce of energy into trying to keep those bills down. So sometimes you just have to bite the bullet as much as it is. I wanted to reinforce what Cardi said about trees. There is some information. We were given a grant with some trees, and if you'd like a tree, there's information on our city's website about how you can get your name there for a tree. 8K homeowners, I hope everybody goes to that on the 20th. That is a really good event. You get to meet the candidates. Besides that, you can hear what their positions are, and I think that's a really, really important meeting. So remember that date, September 20th, right? September 20th at 7 p.m. at Pleasant View School. On a highlight, for some reason, I am doing more weddings. You know, the mayor of the city can provide for weddings. And this must be a happy time, because it seems like every time I turn around, somebody wants to get married. So I think we've had a wedding every 2 weeks. And it's been a busy time, but sometimes those are really happy times. And so that's one of the services that the mayor of the city provides. The mayor doesn't get paid a single cent for that. I want everybody to know. The fee is $10. The check is written out to the city of Eastpointe. So I'm trying to bring back money, and I'm going to apply it to everybody's water bill. I can't do that because they're separate funds. And Mr. Colville, you know, when I heard that we'd had a shooting at the VFW hall on Gratiot, I went, we don't have a VFW hall on Gratiot. We've never had a VFW hall on Gratiot. So they said that no shots had been reported. Anytime that you hear a lot of noise going on or whatever, then that is the time to call the police so we can intervene before something gets out of whack. We will follow up on the fact, because the ownership did change in both of those places, and there are laws. The people over here in planning can tell you that when the ownership changes, there are certain things that have to go into place, and you're well aware of that, so we will follow up on it. That's a very scary thing that you experienced, and I'm sorry that you had to go through it. But, you know, our police are out there, so we're trying to see if we can't prevent more of that type of action. And maybe it might be that we have to review what's happening in that hall. But we will follow up on that, and I thank you both for coming forward at council tonight. And that's all I have for now, so I would appreciate a motion to go into closed session.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to go into closed session to discuss privileged communication regarding pending litigation with the DOJ and discuss collective bargaining.
Support.
Support, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Lucido?
Yes.
Mayor Pixley?
Yes. Go into closed session at 9 o'clock.